Hello, world. It's me, your favorite podcast host about cryptids, Anthony Diaz here. And I apologize for the weird angle, but you know what? I was picking up some stuff, and I thought, you know what? I might as well, take full advantage of what YouTube has to offer and make a short little intro video for the new episode that posted on Spotify. It is Nevada, the introduction to giants. So yeah, this is a little intimidating because doing new things with new platforms. I don't know what to expect. I obviously don't expect a huge blow up of people. But this is stepping out of my comfort zone of doing videos instead of straight up just audio podcasts, which is okay. It's fine. We're growing, we're learning. So yeah, this is the episode, Nevada to Giants. I hope that I'll be able to make more content like this later with my setup, with my camera and my mic. But yeah, this is, you know what? Screw it. We'll just give it a shot, right? We'll just give it a shot. All right, y'all. Enjoy. Later. "50 States of Terror may include content unsuitable for young audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Content warnings will be included in the show notes." This is Nevada. Giants. Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of 50 States of Terror. I am your host, Anthony Diaz. And thank you again for listening. If this is your first time to the show, welcome. If you are a listener of previous episodes, welcome back. Let me do some little clicky clicks here because this is going to be a fun one. I am drinking a home iced coffee, and I know it's pretty bad to have iced coffee when you're recording an episode because apparently it messes up your throat and it's not crisp and sound like a hot tea. But damn it, it is Sunday and I truly do love iced coffee and it tastes so good. But let's get on with this. So today, what are we talking about? We are talking about giants. Yes, giants. I absolutely was very, very on the fence of doing giants because it is one of the top tier ones to discuss when you're talking about cryptids because there's so much information out there concerning giants. And I absolutely do love that there is a lot of information out there. But this is one of those things that it's rooted in history. There are a lot of ancient civilizations and modern civilizations within the last like 200 years have text and have stories and all of this wonderful information about giants. And I am just amazed about this. But again, I was on the fence about doing something like giants because this is on the level of like let's just say, oh, hold on. I gotta pause this real quick. Sorry about that. There was some technical difficulties on my mic. But anyway, this was on the top tier list of things that I was skeptical about doing because it's on the same realm as you're talking about Mothman or Sasquatch because those are heavy hitters. Those are the ones where there is controversy rooted in all of it because you have people who are on the fence of, yes, I do believe in Sasquatch, or no, I don't believe in Sasquatch because that's ridiculous. But the thing about giants is there are there are so many different texts and so many different stories that you can deep dive into, that this episode would be like days long, you know? And I, when I was getting into Nevada, there were some things that I wanted to try to do. So like there was, let's see, the Lake Tahoe monster, the Pyramid Lake monster, the Walker Lake monster, giant snakes, the Cactus Cat, hell dogs. Okay. They're all great. They're all fantastic. You know, I think we already did an episode on Cactus Cats. I think that was for California. You know, aquatic cryptids are everywhere. What was one that it, if it were to be one of the beginning episodes to where I start going into these heavy hitters, which one can I do? And then I started reading about the indigenous people over in Nevada and their belief in this large creature, this humanoid creature known as a giant. And I told myself, you know what? If this is going to be the beginning of me getting new listeners and, you know, trying to be a better host and trying to make the show better, instead of just doing these small little known cryptids from each state, you know, let's push the envelope just a little bit and let's talk about the heavy hitters every once in a while. So Nevada, congratulations, you are the big winner of one that is one of the top 5 ones. And here we go. What an intro, right? Because here's the whole picture. Okay. Thus far, it was a small little known cryptids from you know, Connecticut, Delaware, and we hit major ones, but nothing as large as this. I would say this goes even further than Chupacabra. You know, and the controversy between that, because it was rooted in Puerto Rico and not in Texas where everybody thinks it is. This one has so much history about the belief of giants that it's even still placed in pop culture media, such as video games. If you are a fan of Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, there's an area where you can locate in a cave a giant. And then I think the main character name is Morgan. I think his name is Morgan. I can't remember. I think you start off as Morgan or you end up as Morgan. I can't remember. But anyway, he writes in his journal and he starts to describe this giant in a fetal position. It's this skeleton remains of a giant. And you can find YouTube videos, conspiracy theory videos on YouTube. But when you start like really doing research on something like this, something like giants, you start to see this eerie picture of similarities between old ancient texts and old ancient stories and something as recent as maybe 200 years ago. No, I'm sorry. Something as recent as like 30 years ago. Because we will talk about the story that comes out of Afghanistan during the Afghan war. And that by itself is a fantastic story. So let's get into it. Okay, so one of the things I do want to say before I begin this process is it was a toss-up between giants and thunderbirds, because thunderbirds is another heavy hitter, deep rooted in indigenous people's stories and lore. Fantastic. But I wanted to go into giants. So here we go. So let this be an introduction to giants. Okay? Because like I said, we can spend hours on the indigenous tribes, and we can spend hours on different countries' version of giants. So let's start with the controversy of giants. Okay, so the controversy surrounding the topic of giants is that Bibles and other religious stories and origins, they have giants in there. So let's just take Christianity. So giants listed in the Old Testament, probably the most famous one that everybody should know, if you're surrounded by Christianity and live in the United States for the past like 200 years, is Goliath. The story of David and Goliath. You have King Bashan, the Nephilim, the Anakim. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Also, giants of Egypt mentioned in 1 Chronicles 11:23. These are all biblical stories of the existence of giants. Okay. Now, the controversy goes into the validity of such creatures because of the appearance of the references in religious texts. So, for example, this may fall into the realm of the existence of angels. If you remember from our previous episode of the butterfly people of Joplin, Missouri, during that horrible natural disaster, the tornado, people were starting to see a similar image of angels, but coming down in the form of butterflies, helping people and aiding people, calming people during this horrific natural disaster. Okay. Now, in the episode, I did mention that, this is kind of in the Midwest Bible Belt, area where Christianity is the Baptists, Methodists, Catholics, Christians, I think even some evangelicals, they're all in that area. And in the episode, I did mention that, maybe this is just a mass hysteria type thing. Maybe because everybody was having this horrific experience that they were seeing these things that they thought they were angels. But it doesn't explain the phenomenon that happened, during it. People were getting picked up and being moved, and objects were being stopped, and cars were being maneuvered around. So when you're talking about the existence of angels, when you're also talking about the existence of giants, because they're in religious texts, I don't think a whole lot of Christians and a whole lot of people who do believe in Christianity are talking about giants. Now, this may sound, absurd, but it's kind of the truth. You know what I'm saying? So this whole controversy believes in okay, well, if you believe in one, then why don't you believe in the other? You see, the belief of one should therefore have belief in the other, right? So, however, many Christians wouldn't consider giants as truth, even though the belief of miracles or angels are present. It doesn't dismiss the overall belief in the items of Christianity. It just demonstrates the controversy surrounding something like giants. Because when you are talking about something that's in the realm of, well, what's popular, because that's kind of what I think. Like, what's popular? What makes you feel good? Well, angels make you feel good, right? But no one's talking about, an 8-foot giant coming to soothe your pain or anything. They're talking about angels. There has been a number of conversations that I've had with Christians about the concept of giants. This was maybe like a couple of years ago when I was getting really back into the realm of cryptids, and the topic of aliens and giants came up because there are a lot of YouTube videos out there that have been debunked, but there are a couple that have like really good in-depth theories and evidence of the existence of giants / Bigfoot, because they make the reference of like, well, giants may be relatives of Bigfoot, and then they go and talk. They go in this explanation of why there aren't any around anymore. But anyway, I'll get into that later. But where was I going with this? The conversation with some Christians. So I brought up the topic. Well, okay, so excuse me. So what do you think about the existence of heaven and hell? You know, angels and demons. You know, so if you believe in the existence of angels and demons, then why don't you believe in the existence of like these other type of angels? Why don't you believe in the existence of like giants? Because they're depicted in, you know, in the Bible, and their answer was, well, it may be some type of metaphor. It may be some type of picture that, well, the little guy wins over the big guys, you know, or it may be this picture of overcoming some huge obstacle like David and Goliath, right? Well, that didn't sit with me very well, because I am, of course, a believer in most of these monsters and cryptids that we've been talking about for the past 2 years now. And what I have come to believe myself in the realm of giants is that I do think that they were some type of creature out there that was a monstrous man. There's too many similarities. And I love the idea of this, because let's start with talking about other countries other than the United States who have giants in their history, in their lore. So India, and you have to excuse my pronunciation because I'm not very good at this. My wife is way better at conversational podcasting than I am, but it's India. The Daityas, I believe I said that right. The children of Diti and the sage Kashyapa, who fought against the gods. How about Norse? Norse is Jotun, described as roughly human size and some portrayed as huge, which split into frost giants, fire giants, mountain giants, and I'm not even attempt to pronounce the Norse language of those, but I give it a shot. How about this? Hrimpusar, Ejdotnar, and Bergrasar. I tried, man. Furthermore, Norse giants is the root of British giants. So I didn't really go too far deep into that side because I wanted to focus on Nevada and what happened in Nevada. But when I think about the fantasy writings of like Tolkien and other fantasy authors from Britain and England and that side of the world, I imagine that this all stems from Norse, and I gotta imagine that that's where a lot of the fantasy creatures come from: fire giants, mountain giants, stone giants, frost giants. Because I'm like many of you know, I am a huge advocate, and I am a lover of everything RPG when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and all those tabletop RPGs. And when I started making similarities with all these creatures and these lore monsters and cryptids and things like that, and the connection it has with the love of my games, it was like, well, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. That's how they got that monster, that cryptid. So here we go. How about Greek? Let's go with Greek. Gigantus, children of Uranus and Gaia, involved in the conflict of the Olympian gods. This is just a small example of different countries having giants in their history. How about artifacts? There has to be some type of artifacts, right? How about the giant of Castelnau? And this is from France. So bone fragments found in 1890 in France. A humerus, tibia, and femoral mid were discovered and identified as human, with an estimated height of 11 feet tall based on size of the bones. when I read that, I immediately thought, it's like, well, we do know that some people do like to embellish, and they do like to, create false cryptids in the hope that people are coming to their store or to their land, their community for tourism. One case that we did, the Iceman of Minnesota, did just that. Everything was faked. But this was handed off to scientists, and it was later discovered to be authentic. And based off the size of the bones, it was estimated to be 11 feet tall. Now, we do know that people do have gigantism. We do know that the tallest man in the world was, I think 11 feet tall or 9 feet tall, something like that. Is it far-fetched to believe that one of these people could have had this illness or this condition? Of course. But it does tickle that part of the brain that's like, man, if there's one of these, what if there was a community of these people? How about the giant multiplier? Let's see. Further bones discovered and unearthed from a prehistoric cemetery with skulls of at most 32 inches in circumference and laying beside bones of gigantic proportions, estimated height to be 10 to 15 feet tall. I think these also were found in France. And then the Pangboche hand, an artifact found from the Buddhist monastery in Pangboche, Nepal. In December 2011, it was discovered that DNA from a finger was human. The hand was believed to belong to a Yeti. And I've seen pictures of this thing. There's a photograph of it. And it's this elongated hand with, like, I think if you were to imagine, if you put your hand out and you were like, okay, well, my hand's pretty large, right? Just double the size of your fingers and double the size of your palm. And that was the size of this hand. And it sat next to this skull with this shaggy looking fur, but the skull appeared to be humanoid. But the fact that they pulled DNA from this finger and it became to be human, love it. Absolutely love it. So let's go into Nevada and what happened in Nevada. So this is called the Citicas, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So miners excavating guano discovered Native American relics, which included a 6.5 foot tall mummy. Further discoveries found several leg bones by estimate of size based on the bones were to be 6 to 10 feet tall. These bones are on display at the Humboldt Museum in Winnemucca, Nevada. So in Nevada, you have these miners, excavating guano from a cave. And this happened in 1911. In Lovelock, the Lovelock Cave in Nevada. Okay, so these people went into the cave looking to extract guano from the cave. Came across this pile of Native American artifacts. Okay. While digging through the artifacts and digging through the guano, and if you don't know what guano is, it's bat dung. It's used in a whole bunch of different stuff. Anyway, they were looking through the relics, and then they found the set of bones, and one of them was a mummy. It was a mummified person, and estimated height was what did I say? 6? Okay, yeah, 6 to 10 feet tall. No, 6.5 foot tall mummy. I'm sorry, but the bones around it, of the leg bones and different bones, through estimates, were to 6 to 10 feet tall. Now, the main thing that goes into your head was like, okay, people do end up being that tall, so it's not really far fetched. But the way that they found the bones and the way that they found this site with multiple different bones that belonged to multiple different people that were over 6 and 10 feet tall. Now the 10 foot tall is the one is the one they're like, how many did they find? I don't know. I couldn't find enough information or pictures to suggest like how many different sets of those bones that they found to indicate how many of different people were above 6 foot tall going into the 10 foot spectrum. So they found this set of bones, and later on, an author and historian, Adrian Mayer, suggests that the bones might have been misused by people portraying the bones as abnormal sized, but in fact were normal temperature, soil, and elements, turning very dark hair into rusty red. That mentions the hair that they found on the mummy itself, on the set of bones. So the Paiute indigenous people that are in that area believe that a red-headed cannibal giants were around the area attacking the people at all time, and mortal enemies of the tribes surrounding their territory. So you have one tribe in Nevada believing that there was a red-headed giant. Think the Hulk, but with long red hair, and it's suggested also that they're not like Neanderthal looking, where it's like Cro-Magnon forehead and eyebrow. They look humanoid. They look as if you took Lou Ferrigno and just made them, 4 feet taller, more muscular, and put red hair on him. It looks like a normal dude. So the interesting thing about this specific event that happened in Nevada was the fact that this giant had red hair, was tall, extremely big, aggressive, and a nuisance to the people, mortal enemies to the people. Okay? Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of my iced coffee. Excuse me. Oh, that's so good. I really should just start drinking tea because I can already feel my my mouth start to dry up. Anyway. So in Nevada, these miners found these relics, these skeleton figures believed to be 6 to 10 feet tall, red hair, phenomenal, love it. So with that, let's jump into the story in Afghanistan. So here's what this is how the story goes. A squad of army soldiers were tracking this combatant group up a mountainside. They got to around the peak of this mountainside, and they couldn't locate the combatants. Okay, what they found instead was this large cave entrance, and upon coming closer to the edge, to where you pop up on the peak of this mountainside, a 10 to 12 foot red-headed giant wielding, I think it was a spear, multiple wooden spears, began to chuck these fucking things at the squad of soldiers. The story goes that they went into this hardcore gunfight. And the giant was just taking round after round after round after round, wouldn't go down. Finally, he went down. The giant ended up taking with him, I think one soldier was impaled by the spear. They radioed this thing into their command, to their base, to their FOB, the forward operating base. The command sent off this, I believe this story said it was a CH-46. So this dual propellered giant of a helicopter comes coming in. Apparently, the story goes that these men in plain clothes, sunglasses, armored up, got the giant, secured the giant, put the giant inside of the bird, flew off, took the soldiers with them. Apparently debriefed them at the base, and then the bird left. The bird took off with these men, these apparent men in black or whatever. And then they were told in secrecy to never mention this ever again. Now, this story has been circulating around for a couple years now, because not only was this a popular story on a TikTok video. I forgot the guy's name, but he does fantastic videos. He talks about if you want to unlive in a firefight, don't mess with Doc type stuff. I forgot his name, but anyway, he told the story. The story is on multiple websites, and it did say at the end that, well, it was determined that, okay, this thing is debunked. It's not true, but it does kind of tickle your conspiracy theory mind in the back. So, well, maybe they said it, and then they just disclaimed it on the end. It's like, hey, you know what we said was bullshit. So don't believe us. But the fact that it was described as this red-headed giant, and then you talk about the red-headed giant that was found in Nevada, you're going to start to see a lot of similarities, because I'm going to name off a relation to other Native American giants. Okay? And then I'm going to try my best, because each one deserves to be said. I'm going to try my best to name off every single one of these indigenous tribes. I'm going to try my best to pronounce them correctly. So here we go. The Shoshone in Wyoming, Idaho, Nevada, the Maca of Olympic Peninsula, the Seminole, Florida, the Seneca of New York and Ontario, Canada, the Miwok of Northern California, the Nootka from the Nootka Sound in Canada, the Paiute of Northern Nevada, the Quinault from the Olympic Peninsula, the Piscataway from Southern Maryland, the Pomo of Clear Lake, California, the Lakota from northern central U.S., the Owakongan, the Okanagan, of Washington State and British Columbia, the Wyandot of Lake Huron, Ontario, the Laka Pamu from British Columbia and Washington, the Wakima of the Wakima Valley in Washington State, the Setsaut of British Columbia, Canada, and the Tillamook of Oregon. All of those tribes, Canada, Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming, Florida, Maryland, British Columbia, northern U.S. states, Lake Huron, Ontario, Washington State, British Columbia, Oregon. They all have very similar stories of giants. All are huge humanoid men, all have red hair, and all are aggressive. And it's important to note that all of these giants are cannibals. they depict these giants as cannibals. Most are considered quote unquote stone giants. Now, when I was trying to get more into what that meant as stone giants, all I can relate to why they would call them stone giants, it wasn't the fact that they were made of stone. It was the fact that they primitive stone usage, I believe, because I couldn't find any evidence in reading about the makeup of their body to be for the reason for them to be stone giants. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like the Norse where they had fire giants, frost giants, and all that stuff. So yeah, most of them were men, but the Oich from the Clonalt is a woman. This is the only one that I can find that they depict the creature, the giant that is a nuisance to them, their enemy, is a woman. George Eberhard writes that most are from myth or historical lore, but a majority could be traditional knowledge of Bigfoot. So there's the link. There's the link that I was saying earlier, that this individual, George Eberhard, which is a cryptozoologist, researcher, doesn't necessarily believe that these are actual like humanoid giants, but the precursor of what they interpreted Bigfoot to be. And when I was making the connection, when I was making the entire connection of like, okay, well, I mean, I kind of get it, but like, why would they depict them as like red hair? And then it dinged on me, like when they said red hair, a lot of the pictures that you see, especially from the original 1960s film, the Patterson film, Patterson film, I think so. The fur on Bigfoot is not like dark brown, but a kind of reddish color. So is it safe to say that, you know, this is a evolutionary, or is this a precursor to what they believe the Bigfoot was or something like that? I don't know. But the link between what they believe the giants were and then what we considered like today's giant, quote unquote, is Bigfoot. I kind of like the similarity, but me personally, this is just me talking. This is Anthony Diaz, your host of 50 States of Terror. This is me talking right now, and I'm saying that from the Sumerian text, from all of the other countries that have giants in them, from all of the similarities of what they look like, of all the things that came to be of their nature and how they're depicted, and the fact that all around the world that you have this type of, and they're not like 50 feet tall giants. No, they're 10 feet, they're 12 feet, they're relatively like us. And if you just cut off the alien theory and the alien part of what you may think giants are, me personally, I like to believe that at one point there was this large race of giants that lived thousands of years ago, but didn't survive. They couldn't thrive because, you know, maybe their food sources came small, or maybe they were killed off. I don't know. Maybe this was a way of different civilizations depicting gods. You know, this larger than life people that brought blessings, and how they described to bring the wind and the sun and the moon. I don't know, but I personally love the idea that maybe, just maybe, that there was some race of giant people, and they're no longer here. I don't know, that's just me. I love it. So yeah, thank you all for listening. This is the introduction to giants. I do think that I do want to do a multiple episode on giants because it's one of my favorite ones. Besides Mothman and Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil, the one that cannot be named on unless you want them to visit your house. I love giants because the plausibility of them being real, it just makes me so very happy. And I know before we did a rating system, so I'm just gonna go ahead and rate it. We get 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5, man. I love it. I love it to death. It's one of my favorite ones. Well, thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for my social shout-outs. I do thank you all for listening. Thank you all for, following all my socials and TikTok and all that stuff. I know last month it was just hectic, into school, summer session, work, it was just too much. But now that summer has hit, I hope that I can bust out more of these episodes for you guys. Patreon, you are going to get something very special. Please just bear with me. And I do appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all for listening. Later, y'all. This has been an episode of 50 States of Terror, brought to you by your host, Anthony Diaz. You can find the show on Facebook and Instagram at 50 States of Terror. On Twitter, you can find the show at 50 States Terror, without the of, because of the character limitations. You can also find the show on TikTok, 50 SOT Podcast. Email at the50sot@gmail.com. That's the 50SOT@gmail.com. And of course, if you want to support the show, please, you may at patreon.com/50 States of Terror. Thank you and happy hunting. Later.